Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Bechet, and this is the AAF Exchange, a podcast from the American Action Forum, where experts provide clear, data-driven insights into today's economic and domestic policy issues. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. On this episode of the AAF Exchange, the housing market, Trump accounts, and energy costs. Joining us to break all this down, AAF President Douglas Holtz-Eakin, Director of Financial Service Policy Thomas Kingsley, Director of Competition Policy Fred Ashton, and Director of Energy and Environmental Policy Shooting Pomerleau. That was a lot.
Wow.
We got a lot on this episode today.
No, this is great. You know, Kyle Bechet and the miracles.
Yeah. I don't want that to go any further than right there.
Okay. I'm going to
stop on that one.
Full stop.
All right, so we do have a lot to get to,
Yep.
So we'll jump right into it. Doug, what's been on your mind?
Bernie Sanders.
Oh.
It's always Bernie Sanders. So he has yet another proposal for a wealth tax. This is a 5% wealth tax on billionaires. You can name them, right? You know, we're now just going for the extremely affluent, and the press release includes how much Elon Musk would have to pay, and Bezos, and all of this stuff. So I'm not a fan of these wealth taxes. We've had this conversation before. They are deliberately designed to be confiscatory and to damage people's financial well-being. I don't think that's the point of the tax code, so it offends me as a going-in proposition. And then the quote uses of these funds are just the Build Back Better agenda from the Biden era, which was a colossal failure and never made any fiscal sense, never made any legislative sense, and so for example, we're going to send out $12,000 checks to families of four. Why? Like, what is the point of checks at this moment? Mm-hmm. So, other than that, sterling idea. But I think it's time to move past this. The wealth taxes are bad tax policy. They're probably not constitutional. They have all sorts of flaws. But here we go again.
Yeah, other than messaging, there's not. It doesn't seem like there's.
And I know it's just messaging.
Yeah.
But can we actually have a message battle about something that matters?
Right, like maybe the debt, which this does nothing
For example,
to help. Which this does nothing to help.
If you're going to levy a tax that's that large, let's reduce the deficit with it. No, he's going to spend more than what he brings in.
Create new entitlements.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to watch. We'll have to watch and see how that unfolds. But it's always nice to beat up on my home state senator once in a while. But at this point, we're going to turn it over to Thomas Kingsley to talk about what's going on in the housing market.
And I get to ask him questions, right?
Yes, you get. Yes, you get to be me.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. Welcome. This is my first appearance as a moderator in the podcast, and I love the idea. So let's start with the softball. What's the status of the housing market? We hear a lot about housing. We hear a lot about affordability. Where are we?
Thank you for having me, Doug. I thought I'd been banned from this platform, so it's a delight to be here. So we saw in the pandemic that demand for housing greatly increased, construction slowed down, and we're now seeing a historic shortage in housing inventory. NAR came out with some research just this week saying that last year we were short 4 million units, which is astonishing. So we can and should talk about macroeconomic policy and rates and the other levers, but at the end of the day, we simply don't have enough houses in the US, and we have very few means with which to fix that problem.
But we do have a House and a Senate that are busy fixing that problem. So the Senate just passed the Road to Housing. Is that it? It came out of committee.
It came out of committee. It is working its way through the process.
What is that?
So, good news first. If it passes, it will be the most significant bipartisan housing affordability legislation in about a decade.
Wow.
It's also, even more good news, full of quite sensible supply-side fixes. The bad news, they're all so tiny, it will make no real difference. And I don't know whether that's cynicism, saying that anything that comes out of Senate with broad bipartisan support has to be more or less meaningless these days just to work its way through the chamber. So what is it? It is a grab bag of policies across a wide range of fields to do with incentivizing state and construction of new builds. So it's things like financial literacy, streamlining environmental programs, making it easier for builders to construct modular housing.
Okay.
So it is a series of small incremental changes and two rather loud, clanging I don't know what you call it, symbols. One is a prohibition on private equity involving owning single-family homes, and the other is, slightly bizarrely, a ban on the Federal Reserve creating a central bank digital currency.
Okay, so I understand the first, at least the populist interest in it. That has, however, generated veto threats out of people like the National Association of Home Builders. So, do you think that comes out, or are they going to leave that in the bill?
It's causing a lot of strife, and it should, because it's insane. I would refer you to my colleague Fred Ashton's brilliant piece on why private equity is actually a boon to rental supply, the construction, and particularly refurbishment of homes. So this is populist slop that in any good sense should fail. Whether it will, I don't know. The current Senate bill has a lot of support from the White House. It has a very tricky road forward in the House, who spent such a long time working on a bill that is so phenomenally similar that it is baffling that they are digging their heels in and forcing this to go to conference. So, rough path forward.
Does the House version have the ban on institutional investment?
It currently does, yes.
Okay. So that's something the White House wants, because that was in the president's State of the Union, right?
And anything that unites President Trump and Elizabeth Warren should be feared.
That's, a point noted. If you look at it more broadly, the traditional players in housing policy are things like the GSEs, the credit rating agencies, the National Flood Insurance Program, my favorite. What else is out there on the landscape that people are looking at? And is the FHFA, for example, busy trying to actually do something on the housing front?
I think this gets at a really interesting point, which is, as we continue to bang on here at the AAF, if you assume that the housing market problems derive from a singular evil, which is a lack of supply, what can the federal government do about it? The answer is extraordinarily little. The vast majority of this is up to construction, and particularly up to state and localities' red tape. So the road to housing represents a number of small incremental changes in the right direction, but that's about all the federal government can do. And this is where we start to talk about, even if you assume that those interactions are relatively benign, they still represent federal government involvement in a deeply, deeply uneconomic housing market, because there is absolutely the moral hazard, there's a complete distortion of risks, if risks are calculated at all. And so take, for example, what can the federal government do? To my mind, the only thing it can do is less. Please do less. Less would be great. So when you look at things like, as you mentioned, the credit rating agencies, the FHFA is working its way through a process by which it assesses how we use credit rating scores in the government, going from FICO Classic to potentially other credit rating scores. But the way they've gone through this process represents to me such a fascinating view of incremental small changes made without proper research, made without proper consideration, that are potentially hacking us back to a 2008 housing market without really thinking it through.
That's the last thing we need. I've lived through one housing crisis. I do not want to live through the second. So,
Doug, I hope you live for centuries. I hope you see many more.
Well, on that optimistic note, let's turn it back to Kyle. Thank you.
All right, we're back, and we're back with Fred Ashton. Fred, thanks for joining us again.
Good to be here, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
It's been a little while since you've been on, so I feel like we should just throw out what we were going to talk about. Let's just talk golf for 5 minutes.
Sure, absolutely.
No, Angela might get mad at that. All right, so in the President's State of the Union address, he touted his new Trump accounts. Start off by telling what they are.
So they're a feature of the One Big Beautiful Bill, and they're a custodial individual retirement account meant for children to encourage savings and investment. And the One Big Beautiful Bill created a seed fund from the government in which children born between 2025 and 2028 will get a $1,000 contribution. And then there's a whole host of other ways families and other organizations can contribute to these accounts.
So yeah, on its face, I mean, that sounds like it's a good idea, right? Like saving money for future when your child, whether it be education, just a starter fund, sounds like a good idea. But there are some drawbacks to the way that these accounts have been set up. What have you found?
It's really the tax complications. Every contribution has its own way of being taxed. There are pre-tax contributions, after-tax contributions, and that affects how the withdrawals are taxed on the back end. They could be fully taxed. They could have no tax. Either way, everything grows tax deferred, but that creates a lot of compliance issues in terms of record keeping, but it also makes optimizing a family's personal finances very difficult because you have a full menu of options from which you can choose. This just adds to that list.
Yeah, and so complicating the tax code at this point seems like the wrong direction to go on this, as it's already too, if you don't use an accountant or TurboTax, you're basically good luck.
Even with an accountant, good luck to you.
If then this, yeah. Are there better ways that the federal government could incentivize personal savings like?
Certainly. Rather than, like you said, complicating the tax laws further, grouping all of these different savings vehicles from Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, Gift to Minors Act, 529 college savings accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs. Congress could simply create a universal savings account. You could do it in a traditional style where taxes are paid on the back end, or a Roth style where taxes are paid up front. Either way, there is one account. The rules governing withdrawals, what you can withdraw the money for, when you can withdraw it, they all go away. It is just one vehicle. Your savings can go in there with a special tax or certain tax treatment, and you don't have to choose from the laundry list of options currently available.
Interesting. So we'll have to watch and see how this unwinds and how states deal with this, and the Trump accounts specifically, and see how it goes in as we continue to roll these out and all that. So, but thanks for coming on and breaking that down for us.
Thank you, Kyle.
Shooting, welcome back.
Thank you.
How have you been?
Good.
Yeah.
Busy week.
Yeah, busy week for you, pretty much. So, yeah, of course, the big news of the week was the U.S.-led bombing of Iran. This is already impacting your field, energy. Global energy markets are reacting to what's happening. What are we seeing?
Yeah, so we're actually seeing a very significant impact to the global oil and gas markets. The Strait of Hormuz is essentially being closed down after the U.S.-Israel-led attacks against Iran. Iran has not officially announced a formal closure of the strait, but because of the risk of attacks on tankers and also the skyrocketing insurance premiums for tankers, a lot of companies have decided to just pull their tankers to the side and not ship oil and gas. So the Strait of Hormuz is actually, they saw a flow of 20% of the global petroleum of trade from the oil-producing companies in the Gulf states to the rest of the world. That's for crude. And as for natural gas, the same number, 20% of the whole world's natural gas trade, mostly from Qatar. So we're seeing a huge supply chain disruption of oil and gas to the rest of the world, and the implications could be huge if the military campaign goes on for a couple of weeks or even longer. Right now, we're on the 6th day of the campaign.
What could that mean? What could all this mean for the affordability in the United States?
Yeah, so that's a very excellent question, because even before all this started, the Trump administration is already starting to use different tools and leverages try to bring down electricity prices because of the huge AI data center boom. And you see Democrats are starting to pressing against the issue of energy affordability, electricity bills. So the administration yesterday invited a couple major tech companies into the White House to sign a pledge of bring their own power to supply for their data centers. So all this could mean if the campaign goes on longer, it's prolonged, and the scope goes beyond the Gulf region, it goes into the entire Middle East or even other countries in Europe, we could see a huge disruption to the global energy markets, and energy prices could spike in the U.S., we'll see gasoline prices go up at the pump, and that's could be a real challenge, especially midterm elections are coming.
So we haven't quite seen it yet at the pump, but if this is prolonged, those longer term effects will take hold.
Yeah, so far I think the United States has benefited from a situation where we have had an oil oversupply before they went into Iran and striked a lot of different targets in the country. And as you recall, early January this year, the U.S. had a military operation into Venezuela and encouraging companies to invest in that. And they tried to ship between 30 to 50 million of oils from Venezuela to the U.S. So far, U.S. being a big oil and gas producer is working to our benefit. We are a huge natural gas producer. We export a lot of that too. We haven't really seen a huge impact at the gas pump yet, but you do see the prices of crude oil starting to spike really fast and really drastically over the last couple of days.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to keep watch on all that, and as this continues to unfold, and see what happens with global energy markets. So,
yeah.
But thank you for coming on and giving us the briefing on what's happened so far.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Tune back in for our next episode, where our experts will provide clear, data-driven insights into today's economic and domestic issues. I'd also encourage you to check out any of the links in our show notes, and also follow us on social media to learn more about AAF. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play.